Hello friends, on today's food storage episode we're going to be pressure canning some ground beef. I went and purchased 10 pounds of ground beef. We got our ground beef here. I'm going to take and we're just going to lightly brown this ground beef. We're not wanting to fully cook it. It's going to cook once we get it in our jars and get it in our canner. It'll come to good cook then. You could actually cold pack the ground beef into the cans, but then it just kind of makes like one big jar shaped hamburger. Well, if you go ahead and do it like this, it kind of separates it up more like ground beef, and it looks more like traditional ground beef if you kind of just lightly brown it a little bit. So let me get this ground beef kind of cooked up just a little bit, and then we'll get into filling up our jars and getting it canned. All right, hamburger meat is cooked down to one pot. Like I said, we just want it to just be lightly brown. And you see it's got a lot of grease in it. This is real ground beef. It's not the lean, but for food storage, I actually want the fat. That way, if we ever have any problems with our economy and everything, the fat content is going to be very valuable. If we're using it just for regular shelf storage and we're going to be eating the ground beef on a regular basis, you may want to drain the fat off and use water to make you just a broth to have it sitting in. All right, so I've got my heat cut off. Now we're going to start filling up our jars. Okay, so I'm going to get my wide mouth funnel, and we're just going to start ladling out this ground beef. I'm going to kind of bring it a bit closer to the pot where I can keep from getting everywhere, but we're wanting to get it where we're to this bottom rim right here. This is the 1 inch mark, so we want to keep it to about right there. As my wife, she appreciates me putting it over the pot and pouring it instead of spreading grease all over her counters and stove. I have a wonderful wife, but she lets me know when I mess up, but I let her know when she messes up too, so we have a good relationship like that. So this, as you see, I'm just dipping out, trying to dip out equal parts beef and fat. A general rule of thumb that I've been finding is usually whatever you're doing, about a pound fits into a pint jar. Oh, that's meat, as far as meat goes. So right here we got 10 pounds. We're going to see how true that is. If it works out to be about 10 pint jars. I'm kind of stirring this up just a little bit. Okay, here we go. I had said that I had 10 pounds of well, I stand corrected. 10 pounds doesn't make 10 jars. I still got some left here. So now that we got our jars ready, I'm just going to kind of shake them all up. Get everything settled down in it. Okay, over here on the left, most of these all has beef fat in it. The rest of it we're just gonna kind of let it make a broth. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add enough water in each one just to bring it up to the 1 inch line. Doesn't take a whole lot. I'll pour some of that out of that one probably. All right. Pour this one off just a little bit. Next thing we want to do, these jars, especially this one right here, see how it's kind of got some old junk on it? Well, we want to make sure these jars will seal. So I just take a little bit of white vinegar and a towel, and I'll just kind of use that and just kind of wipe off the rims. Get them good and clean. Just like so. One thing you can do also is if you want to season your meat, you can do that. It wouldn't hurt to have a tablespoon of salt in here. Do not use salt that's got iodine in it. They got pickling salt, and that's actually not for pickles. I mean, you can use it in pickles. It's a bad term, so if you're going to buy pickling salt, all it is just a non-iodine, it ain't got no iodine in it. But it's for, now this is real greasy on the outside of it. I'll wipe it off real good and get a little extra vinegar, as we want to make sure we get a good seal. But anyway, make sure it's not, that your salt doesn't have iodine in it. And now we've done that, we're just going to go ahead and just put our lids on. Anytime we put our lids on, we just want to do it finger tight, just to where it stops. We're not trying to, you should be able to turn it with 2 fingers to the tightness that you need. So, well, if I can get that label on there. So that's as tight as you need to do, is what it takes to use 2 fingers. All right, it's time to get our canner and get these ready to put them under a little pressure. If you haven't ever seen any of my other canning videos, I use a Presto canner. I'll put a link down in the description where you can buy one off Amazon. This one, it has a weight on it, but it's not your grandmama's old kind where you hear the weight jiggling on it and it sounds like it's ready to blow up at any time. I really like this canner, but it takes, mine holds 10 cups of water to get it up to the fill line where you're supposed to be doing for canning. If you purchase one of these, it's got a little line down there. It tells you where to put the water up to. As you say, it just goes up to right there, and there's a little tray that goes in here, and all this does, it allows bubbles to come up, and but yet it don't rattle the bottom of your jars and risk breaking your jars. Okay, so let me line the canner with my jars. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, this is only going to hold 10 jars on the first round. So what I'm going to do is I've got another one of these. I'm going to lay that on top of it, and that allows me just to put my other jars. I could put 10 more, so I could put 20 1-pint jars in here. All right, so let's get it sealed up, get our heat on. I'm going to go ahead and cut my heat on high and let it start heating up. Let the water get boiling. And then we'll come back and put our lid on there once it gets heated up. All right, our water's heated up. I'm gonna go ahead and take my lid and I'm gonna put it on here. This kind of sets there. You'll I could see it better. I could line it up better if I could see it, but I'm trying to stay out of the way of the camera. There it is. So what you're gonna do is just get the lid on there, and it only goes on there one way, and then turn it, and it locks it in. And then we're just gonna wait till we start getting a steady stream of pressure or steam coming out of here, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so you see we got pressure building up in our pressure cooker. We're wanting it all coming out here. This right here is a little safety valve that keeps you from opening the pressure cooker once it seals off. You see the steam really coming out of it right now. Here in just a second, it's going to pop up and make sure that you can't open the pressure cooker up once it pops up. But it's almost there. There it is. So now all our steam's just going to start coming out of here. Once we get a steady stream of steam coming out of it, we're going to let it go for 10 minutes. Right now it's kind of just flashing, kind of like what you would see a stack of a train do, where it's blowing up smoke a little bit at a time. We're wanting just a steady stream. Once it gets to be steady, we're going to let it run for 10 minutes and just give time for the pressure to equalize inside the cooker. Okay, I think you can see it now, and definitely hear it. It's got a good, steady, constant stream going on it now. So I'm gonna set a timer for 10 minutes. Then after that 10 minutes is up, we'll put our weight on there and cut our heat down and let it start slowly increasing on pressure. This will be a good time for me to go ahead and tell you. So where I live, I'm below 1,000 feet elevation, so I will keep my pressure at 11. You may want to check your elevation, and you can look up things like if you've got the Ball Blue Book Cannon, it'll tell you where you're at, what pressure you need to be canning at. Or you can also just do a quick Google search and find out at what elevation you're at and how many pounds per square inch you need to be canning at. But once we get ours up to 11, we're going to cook it for 75 minutes, and that's how long it takes for it to kill off all the spores, to make sure there's nothing that grows in there. So everything that comes out of this is going to be sterilized on the inside. This is the same way in the medical field that they sterilize instruments. For something to be sterilized, it has to be heated under pressure. Well, there's chemicals that can sterilize stuff, but of course we can't use none of that with our food. So we just use heat and pressure and time, and it will kill off all the spores, viruses, bacteria, anything that could grow inside that jar, and basically puts it under a vacuum seal and makes it where we can have a long-term shelf life. I would say with a ground beef, 5 years is a good amount of time that you can keep it. You can probably actually keep it longer, but I would definitely want to check it later on to make sure that it's still fit to eat. But in a situation where we're trying to have food storage and keep it for a long time, with the fears of us not having enough food one day or something going wrong, you may just keep it on your shelf just to have it there just in case. Okay, so let me let the timer run. I've rambled on enough, and we'll come back in just a minute. Okay, so our timer's fixing to go off. I'm just gonna, there it is. I'm just going to cut it off. So when it does, what we want to do is we'll just take our weight and we're just going to throw it over our canner. We're going to turn our heat down. I know mine's between 3 or 4, and we're going to let the pressure slowly build up and get to 11, and then we're going to cook it for 75 minutes after that. If you want more detailed instructions on bringing your temperature up and not overshooting, watch my videos on the canning the chicken or canning butter, and I go into detail there. But for sake of time, I mean, we're just bringing the heat up in the pressure cooker. Once it gets up to 11, I'm gonna let it go for 75 minutes. However, if you're using quart jars, with a quart jar, you want to go for an hour and a half. Yeah, so go an hour and a half with quart jar, 75 minutes, or hour and 15 minutes with pint jars, and that's the recommended amount of time. And so after this thing has come up to temperature and went for 75 minutes, we'll come back and open it up. I just want to take just a second and tell you thank you for all y'all that have subscribed to my channel or liked or commented on anything. It really helps the channel out a lot. We're growing. It's taking a little bit of time, but we're getting there thanks to all of you. If you haven't already, there's a little like button down there, or a little subscribe button down there. You can just click on that, and then you can keep up with all the content that I do. I do stuff on basically homesteading, food storage. We grow our own food here. We store it, put it away, and we're here if anything bad happens. I'm rambling, I'm sorry. I get rambling every now and then, I can't help it. It's just what I do. But we put stuff in food storage, trying to be ready if anything does happen with our economy. I'll make sure that I've got food for me and my family to eat, and I hope you got some too. But we can pull some of the stuff we got off the shelf. Our vegetables, we usually eat them right then, but what we don't eat, we're going to be canning them as they come up. We're going to be making videos on how to do that. So let me let you get back to doing what you're doing, and I'm going to be back in just a second, and we'll get this canning done, okay? Hey, well, speaking of which, let me get you right here. We're almost up to temperature. Sarah, I'm going to go ahead and make sure my heat's cut down. Once it gets up to 11, that's where we want it. And at that point, I'm going to start my timer. We'll go 75 minutes. Stay close. Don't get run off too far. Come back and check on it about every 10 minutes and make sure it doesn't drop below the pressure that you need. Like I said, here we're 11, so we want to make sure that it doesn't get below 11 at any time. Okay, we're finally up to 11 psi, so I'm gonna go ahead and set my timer for an hour and 15 minutes. Okay, I'll see you whenever the time's done. Okay, so our timer's up, so I'm just go ahead and cut my timer off. And also I'm gonna go ahead and just cut the heat off. Now this is real important. We're not gonna do nothing to this thing until the pressure completely falls in the pressure cooker. And for that to happen, we need this dial to come all the way around to 0, and then enough pressure to seep out to for this valve to close, and then and only then can we open the pressure cooker up. So it takes 15-20 minutes for this to happen. So the best thing to do is just walk away and just forget about it for a little while. I'll come back a little bit later and check on it and see if it's done yet. Okay, our pressure has dropped all the way down to 0 and our bottom's come off. So what we can do is we can go ahead and just take our weight off and set it to the side. And now we're ready to open this up. Now everybody else on all the other videos is going to tell you about taking it and holding it away from you, getting steam. But let me also give you another warning that nobody else seems to tell you about. Whenever you pull this thing back, all this hot water that's condensated on the top of this lid is going to start dripping in the floor. When it lands on your foot, it hurts. So get your feet back whenever you open it up. So we'll go ahead and turn it back, hold it back like that, and let the steam roll out of it. And you see that water, you might see the water dripping. I'll go ahead and just set this off the side. All right, this is it's ready to start taking out. Let me get over here where you can see a little bit better. Okay, I'm gonna get my can grabbers here, and I'm just gonna go in here and pick it up and set it out on the mat. Now then, let me get something to pick this lid up with. You see how that water pours off of it? That's the same way the jar does, or the lid does. So we'll go ahead and reach in here and we'll kind of pour the water off. It gets a little water on top of it every now and then. So I kind of just tilt it to the side and let it come up. Okay, so there it is, our fully cooked, fully preserved hamburger meat. It'll take it 12 to 24 hours to cool off. And if you got some tops, like, well, that and just sealed as soon as I touch it. This right here is fixing to seal too, but we'll just have to keep a check on it, like this one right here. You hear that? That means it's not sealed yet. That was not neither. But it's going to sit there and pop and seal as it cools down. You can see everything's still boiling in here. That's just all the air escaping out. But as it cools down, they'll seal. Well, here we are. We got our ground beef can. Once again, thank y'all for watching and keeping up with me. And always remember, I love you, God loves you, and tell your mom and them I said hello.